Good evening, everyone. This is Jack Fredericks, editor of GodzillaWins.com, your go-to source for all your sports analysis, picks, and predictions. We had a major, huge game today between the LSU Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes in the women's NCAA national championship game. And I wanted to give you a little breakdown in case you're still like me thinking about this game, thinking about how incredible it was, all of the different storylines, everything that kind of occurred throughout the game. This has really been such an electric Final Four, an electric tournament for women's basketball, for all of us who enjoy the sport, who like to watch it. It's just been so incredible to see. The ratings are going through the roof. They're skyrocketing. We'll have to wait to see what the ratings were for the actual national championship game. But the Iowa USC game on Friday night blew some of the ratings out of the water. About 2.6 million people tuned in. So everybody's tuned into this stuff. Seemed like the entire world was tuned into the national championship game. So I figured I'd do just a quick breakdown of the game for you and some of the major storylines. And then we'll move on to the men's tomorrow. So we shall see. Let's first move to by the numbers. So LSU wins this game by a score of 102 to 85. Score kind of got out of hand at the end, but that's not to say that LSU didn't shoot the ball really well. They actually shot the ball incredibly well. So one of the things about the Tigers is they shot the ball 54.3% from the field. That's just really, really nice for them. They shot at 64.7% from behind the arc. They were 11 from 17 from 3-point. That's basically double what they do on any normal night. They shoot 34% from three. So they're not exactly like a great 3-point shooting team, although Kateri Poole is pretty dangerous from behind the arc. And obviously we saw what Jasmine Carson was able to do from behind the arc. Didn't know they had that in her. But overall, this is not a team that shoots the three ball extremely well. They really rely on Alexis Morris to distribute and Angel Reese to get rebounds and putbacks. That's how they score a lot of points. They're also pretty good defensively, but this was just an incredible shooting clinic by the LSU Tigers, and it's one of the major reasons that they won the game. And the biggest contributor to that, as we mentioned, was Jasmine Carson. If you watched the game, you probably know her name by now. She went off for 22 points. 5 of those were 3-pointers. So she hit 15 points on 3-pointers. She shot like 75% from three. She was like 506 or 507, just absolutely nuts. She didn't miss in the first half. And then she hit that incredible bank shot at the end of the first half to put the Tigers up big at the end of that first half. So Jasmine Clark, really just an incredible talent there. Major production off the bench after some foul trouble from some of their big scorers. Just really incredible to see and watch, and is one of the main reasons why they were able to score so many points against the team, Iowa, that is not defensively the most efficient, but is not used to giving up that many 3-pointers. Really, nobody is. That's just an incredible number. Alexis Morris, that's one of the stars for LSU, went off for 21 points, 9 assists. So she was able to dish it out pretty much, especially some key passes late in the game when it felt like Iowa was kind of clawing back. One of the interesting things about LSU is they were able to stave off any kind of clawing back from LSU or from Iowa, with some of the distribution there and some of those assists. They did a really nice job keeping the turnovers kind of low. I mean, they had 12 turnovers, but that's really not that many. Iowa had 16. They dominated the boards, 37 total rebounds. That's part of LSU's identity, mostly because of Angel Reese. Her advanced metrics for this game were really incredible. 25% offensive rebound rate. That's pretty high. But of course, that is one of her MOs. She gets those offensive rebounds. She gets the putback, she gets the foul, and she makes about 73% of her free throws. So Angel Reese was also very dominant in this game. Incredible, just like always, just like she has been doing all year for this team. And it was really just incredible to watch. LaDasia Williams, who I don't think a lot of people noticed as a major contributor, really did come in handy late. She had 20 points and a pretty high usage rate. The bottom line here really for LSU is that they dominated the boards and they shot the lights out of the ball. If you're looking at the score and you're wondering how Iowa was able to give up 102 points, which is extremely high, even for Iowa, whose defensive efficiency numbers aren't so great, the reason is because this team shot 64% from three. You can't stop that. If a team is going to do that from 3-point, it's going to be very difficult to win a basketball game. And even so, Iowa kept it respectable for most of the game without nobody else can shoot 64% from the line. So that's just kind of how that goes. Now, Iowa by the numbers. It's not like they gave up without a fight. They shot 50% from the field. They shot 47% from three. That's high. 64% is unheard of. 47%, that's high, even for Iowa. They don't shoot it exactly that high, but they really had a nice game behind the arc. Caitlin Clark went off for 30 points. She shot the ball well. 8 assists. She always distributes. She always delivers. 6 turnovers. That's normal for her. If you haven't followed Clark lately and you're wondering, man, she kind of turns the ball over a lot. Well, she takes a lot of risks. So because she's such an incredible passer, sometimes those risks don't pay off. She had a garbage turnover late that I don't really consider a turnover. She just kind of threw the ball away right into Angel Reese's hands. But for the most part, Clark pushes the ball. She sees things that others don't see. Sometimes she sees them earlier than they do. They can't react and the ball goes out of bounds. You get a steal. That just kind of happens with her. It's not like she's losing the ball much. She did get it poked out once or twice, but a lot of times when that happens, she's able to recover. And then she's very dangerous because if you're scrambling for the ball and Clark's scrambling for the ball and Clark recovers the ball, she can jack up a 3 from pretty much anywhere and sink it, and you're out of position on defense. So it's a really difficult position to be in. Clark, of course, was spectacular. Czinano spent a lot of time on the bench. Monica Czinano is the yin to Clark's yang for this season. They're a dynamic duo. Czinano averages 17 points a game. She gets a lot of points from pick and rolls and in the paint. She does not put the ball on the floor. She just grabs the ball and she puts it in the hoop. She's got a nice little hook shot. She got some touch from the glass. She can hit it from pretty far out. She was held to, I believe it was 13 points, 6 rebounds. So not a great night for Czinano. However, she spent a lot of time on the bench because she got in foul trouble pretty early. So that happens. But as far as the stat line goes, Czinano held under her usual 17 points for the game. And that would have been a big 4 or 5 extra points. She did miss a couple late that she should have hit. And that was also very difficult. Now, a couple other important players on the Iowa Hawkeyes here. Kate Martin stepped up big. 13 points, 9 of which came on 3-pointers. This is a team that shoots the 3. One of the beautiful things about Iowa, if you don't know this, they shoot, all their guards shoot the ball well. Clark is incredible. She shoots the ball from anywhere. Her shooting percentage is high. She's fearless. She's just an electric player to watch. However, Gabby Marshall had 12 points. 6 of those came from behind the arc. Kate Martin had 13. They don't average more than 10 points a game. So those are good production numbers from 2 players. And Warnock was a senior, a leader on that team. She got into foul trouble late. She can play pretty big in the paint when she wants to, and she can really stretch the floor. So her game's kind of nice because she can stretch the floor like that. And she rebounds really well. Like I said, she plays well in the paint. She had a 22% offensive rebound rate. Remember, Angel Reese, who's like the best offensive rebounder in the country in the women's side, her offensive rebound rate was 25%. So Warnock can also get on the glass. Bottom line for Iowa, it's a tough game for them. They really played well. It's not as though LSU outplayed them in every aspect, but Iowa got into foul trouble really early. And the things that Iowa struggles with, which are defensive efficiency and rebounding, really reared their ugly head. They got rebounded like 37 total rebounds to, I believe, 26 total rebounds. And that's going to happen because these teams are bigger. Iowa's not a big team. Czinano plays big and she can grab the boards. But when you have someone like Reese down there who's just pretty much scooping up everything, it's very difficult to get those boards. Of course, we saw that with USC. They scoop up every rebound. Iowa struggled there as well. So that's kind of how it goes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the game breakdown because we don't want to just spend all time in the stat book, although sometimes that can be very useful. That's why I like to start out that way. It gives us one picture, but not the whole picture. Can't just look at the stat line. You also have to watch the game. Now, let's talk about the first half because this is where I really felt like both teams were just playing at such a high level. This looked like it was going to be an incredible game because of the first half. I want to talk about defense for a minute. Like I've said before, I've said this a couple of times, Iowa struggles defensive efficiency. they came out against USC on Friday in a triangle and won. They packed the paint and they dared some of those shooters like Raven Johnson from South Carolina to shoot the ball. And to Raven's credit, she shot 3 huge threes late in the second half to get South Carolina back in the game. So it's not as though South Carolina was just abysmal from behind the arc. But you knew they weren't going to come out in that type of zone again. One, because it's too exotic. You can't run that type of zone more than once a year. It did kind of stifle USC and confuse them for most of the game because they probably didn't see it on film. So they went back to a 3-2, which they do run. They like to run that zone. Or actually it was a 2-3. I'm sorry. It looks like a 3-2 sometimes because Warnock will come out, but it's really like a 2-3. And so still they were leaving spots open. They were playing kind of a soft zone. And this allowed Alexis Morris to create space in the zone, find Angel Reese or find Kateri Poole. She hit a big 3 early in order to stay in the game. But a lot of LSU's points early on came off the glass. In the first quarter, on the other hand, LSU decides to play man-to-man. Now, this can be tricky. It's just the idea here when you're playing man is, okay, you just need to stick to Clark. And if someone can't stick to Clark, then the next person has to stick to Clark. And Angel Morris was pretty much up for the task. She played incredible defense, but Clark was able to do what Clark does, which is hit threes. So she hit 4 threes in the first quarter. That's just incredible. I'd never seen anything like that in a women's game on this stage, where this girl just comes up and just absolutely is just ice cold knocking down these threes. And she was able to create so much space. One of the ways she did that, she hit 2 threes off of some screens that Sonano used for her. What they'll do a lot of times, those two, because they have such great chemistry, is Sonano will set a screen and then Clark will go one way, and then Sonano will set the screen the other way and try to get some space. And a lot of times, especially in a man, Sonano will then pick and roll. But Angel Reese doesn't play up. So one of the problems that South Carolina got into in that game is a lot of those guys, like even Cordoso, they were bailing out whenever Clark looked like she was going to shoot. They were just coming way up. And what that meant was Sonana was like wide open on the pick and roll. Angel Reese didn't do that. She stayed true to her defense. She stayed in the paint. And so Sonana wasn't really able to pick and roll in the first quarter, really the first half, the way that she was against USC. What this means is that Clark was able to create space and shoot threes, but she wasn't able to use the pick and roll, which is very deadly. And that's how they score a lot of points in that offense. Clark also struggled to dribble drive and get some penetration. I'll talk about that a little later, but in the first quarter, she seemed content to just kind of hit those threes, but she wasn't the only one. Like I said, Kateri Poole hit a wide open 3 for LSU. And the first quarter was really, I think, the most fun, the most electric quarter, because after that, the fouls started to come in. A lot of chatter on the fouls and the foul trouble. The one thing I'll say about this is, yeah, it was ticky-tack, a lot of them, but it was ticky-tack for both sides. It wasn't just like Sonano and Clark and Warnock were getting all these calls against them, and LSU was not. Reese was in foul trouble early. She had to sit on the bench, and Morris was also in foul trouble early. She was on the bench. And credit to Kim Mulkey for having some faith in some of those younger talent to really help that offense when it needed it most, with its 2 biggest stars on the bench. I really thought Poole would step up in that moment because, again, she can shoot. I mean, from 3, she can shoot daggers, but it was Jasmine Carson. She just goes absolutely nuts in that second quarter, hits all these threes. And it's like every time Iowa seems like they're right back in the game, Carson comes out and hits some major threes. And then the turnovers start to happen. The momentum shifts. LSU goes on a big run, and Clark banks in a 3 from, like, it wasn't half court, but it sure felt like it was half court. They end that half 59-42. So they're up 17. That's probably too big a deficit. It's never been done before. By the first half, the game is basically over, but a lot of the excitement occurred in the second half, where we get all these narratives that I'll talk about in a minute. Now, when the second half begins, I thought, okay, well, maybe Iowa will switch up the defense, because one of the reasons that Carson is hitting these shots is because this soft zone is allowing some of these LSU players to get some space and take the shot they want, not the shot they're given. And that's a difference. Clark takes the shot she's given a lot of times, not the shot she wants, and she makes pretty much everything. But girls like players like Carson, Carson and some of the others for LSU, they take the shot that they want. And if they're given that shot, then they can hit it. But they have to be given the shot. Clark doesn't have to do that. She can just, doesn't matter what the shot is, she'll just make it. All that to say, I was surprised at the 2-3. I suppose they just, Bluter does this a lot. I think she believes in her game plan, and she's not going to switch just because it didn't work in one quarter or one half. But I did think that maybe they could have played up a little more. Maybe some foul trouble had to do that. That's one of the most interesting things about this game, is that the foul trouble was so crazy that they had to stay in a zone all game. You don't pick up fouls like that in zone. You just don't, because you're not playing that aggressively. You're not fighting through screens. You're not getting up on your man all that much. So the fact that Iowa picked up all these fouls just is a testament to either the ticky-tack nature of the officiating crew, or, Iowa just was playing very aggressively because they're a smaller team. That's kind of how they play every game. They hacked Aaliyah Boston in game 4 or in the final 4 on Friday. Same thing happens here. So, they stay in that 2-3 zone. LSU stays in man defense. Why not? Seem to be working pretty well. And the game is just very difficult for both teams or for Iowa to get back in, but they do start to get back in because Martin and Warnock start to shoot the ball really well. When those two are shooting well, Iowa can win pretty much any game. And they found some open shots. They hit them both. But then the foul trouble begins again. Everybody starts picking up more fouls. Sonano's got 4. Morris has 3, I believe. Warnock has 4. Everybody's picking up fouls. Major starters, not guys who come off the bench. These players are key to this team. Clark picks up 4 on a technical. So you get the technical foul and the personal. After the game, the refs tried to explain that by saying, oh, okay, well, what actually happened was it was a delay of game, which is it's pretty odd interpretation because the game was stopped. I don't know how you have a delay of game when it's a dead ball. I mean, she just tossed the ball. So I think it probably had more to do with what she says. We know that Clark is an expert trash talker. She's probably getting pretty annoyed at the officials. And so boom, she makes a comment and gets hit with a tee. But now she's got 4 fouls. That hamstrings anyone's game. Sonano's got 4 fouls. Her game's hamstrung. Reese has a couple fouls. She's playing on her toes a little bit more. But it really hurts Clark because she can't use the dribble drive. That's one of the most effective things that Clark can do. Is she's so fast that she takes people off the dribble and she gets in the lane, and then everybody has to respect her shot making ability. So they have to collapse on her. And she's so good at seeing the open player on cutting towards the basket, and she can get them the ball so quickly, whether it's Sonano or Warnock or O'Grady or whoever. And that's really where her game flourishes. And it's how she's able to score so many points and dish out so many assists, because you have to step up on her on the 3, and then she can take you with her first step to the cup. She can lay it up if you don't bail out on your defender, and then she can find her open man. It's just such a complete game. She's going to be an incredible star next year. But when you have 4 fouls, and when Sonano has 4 fouls, and Sonano fouled out pretty much fairly soon after that, when that occurs, there's not much you can do. And there just isn't. There's not much anyone can do when you have this many fouls, because you can't drive. Because what if you get called with the charge? You're fouled out of the game. So you have to take wild threes, and you have to stay on the perimeter. You can't defend. So now you've got 5-on-4 almost every time. And that, I mean, yeah, it definitely hamstrung what they wanted to do with the game. But both teams had a lot of fouls, and LSU was good at getting to the line. So anyone who's new to women's basketball and hasn't been watching this team all year long, that's LSU, might be a little frustrated with the officiating crew, and the technical was a little suspect. But this is how LSU was able to win games. It's how they are able to establish a certain pace as they get to the line and they hit free throws all the time. They're very good at that. They're good off the glass and they're good at getting and ones. If they're able to do that, they can win games. And of course, the 102 points here were just nuts. But the foul on Clark, I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to say. Now, that's the game. LSU can't miss. 64% from three. That honestly should be the takeaway, but it's not. The takeaway is the officiating crew and some taunting that occurred after the game. So here's the thing with the taunting. If you didn't catch it, Angel Reese, I'm sorry, not Alexis Morris. Angel Reese taunts Caitlin Clark after the game as they're going to the handshake line. It's nothing egregious. Taunting happens all the time. But because Clark had sort of gripped the nation, a lot of people were outraged at the taunting. I don't know. Basketball is basketball. If you watch women's basketball, these guys trash talk like nobody's business. These are ice cold killers. They get on the court and they start to ball. This is some of the highest level basketball being played in the country. And these players are absolutely locked in all the time. So they trash talk. They trash talk a lot. Haley Van Leith trash talks a lot. Angel Reese trash talks. Caitlin Clark trash talks. These players are doing this constantly. And so the idea that all of a sudden Angel Reese didn't show enough grace after winning a game where she felt disrespected because of all the Clark hype, I think that's a little out there. But nevertheless, that's kind of how basketball goes, and people have to have something to talk about after the game. But what you should be talking about are the incredible achievements of the LSU Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Both teams, such incredible seasons. Kim Mulkey wins her 4th national championship. That's just an insane number, up there with the greats. Jasmine Carson, the freshman, goes off for 22 points, hits 15 points off of threes, hits 5 threes. The LSU Tigers go 11 for 17 behind the arc. They dominate the offensive rebounds. They put up 102 points every time. Iowa feels like it's going to get back in the game in that 3rd and 4th quarter. As they start hitting those threes, all of a sudden the lead is 8. All of a sudden the lead is 9. We're starting to see some momentum shifts. The Iowa crowd starts to get back into it. Boom, Alexis Morris, dishes to Angel Reese, and it's another 2. Or boom, someone hits a little floater, and it's another 2. Someone gets to the line, picks up another foul. LSU played a better basketball game, and that's why they won. That's why they put up so many points. LSU is going to be dangerous next year. Kim Mulkey did a great job turning that program around. Iowa's going to be dangerous as Caitlin Clark is coming back for her 4th year, her senior year. And women's basketball has never been in a better place. So keep watching women's basketball, keep checking it out, keep following. Follow Godzilla Wins for all of your sports needs. If you like the video, please hit like. Drop a comment on what you thought of the game. This was such an incredible game. We love NCAA women's basketball. Smash that subscribe button if you would like to subscribe. Really helps us out here. And we will see you in a couple days with Clubhouse Picks, our golf podcast, because we are talking the Masters. All right. Have a great night, everyone.